Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to dive right into the fascinating behind-the-scenes mechanics of how natural gas actually gets all the way to your stove or your furnace. We interact with this system every single day, when we cook a meal or when we turn up the heat on a freezing winter night. But very few of us actually understand the complex web of infrastructure, local regulations, and financial pressures that make the whole thing work.
So let's kick this off with a question you might never have really thought about. Who is actually in charge of your gas supply? Did you know the answer depends entirely on the specific laws where you happen to live? You might just assume it's one giant company doing absolutely everything, but the reality is way more intricate. It's this massive, delicate balancing act of safety, environmental responsibility, and economics.
Here is our agenda for today. 1. The gas utility landscape. 2. Regulated versus deregulated markets. 3. Balancing energy affordability. 4. Driving end-use efficiency. 5. Maintaining infrastructure integrity. And 6. Measuring industry performance.
Section 1. The gas utility landscape. Moving gas from pipe to stove.
Okay, the absolutely crucial point to start with here is that we are talking specifically about gas distribution and marketing. We are not talking about those massive, high-pressure transmission lines that carry gas thousands of miles from the wellhead. Those huge entities are considered part of the midstream oil and gas sector. Instead, these local distributors act as the final bridge. They're the ones safely transferring the natural gas out of those massive pipelines and routing it into the localized, low-pressure pipes that connect directly to your neighborhood, your local coffee shop, and nearby industrial facilities.
Section 2. Regulated versus deregulated markets, a tale of two systems.
Now this is where the business model completely flips depending on where you live. There's a massive divide in how gas utilities operate based on local laws. In a regulated market, the utility holds a full, legal monopoly over the entire process, both the physical distribution of the gas and the actual sale of that gas to you. Because they have a total monopoly, they can't just charge whatever they want. A government regulator absolutely must approve their rates to prevent price abuse. But in deregulated markets, the physical distribution of the gas and the marketing, meaning the selling of that gas, are legally separated. What does that mean for you? It means you actually get a choice of which outside entity you buy your gas from.
To really wrap our heads around a deregulated market, think of the utility as a common carrier. Basically, they operate a lot like a toll highway. The utility is guaranteed a monopoly only over the physical pipes buried in the ground. That's it. They are legally required to transmit everyone's gas equitably along those pipes for a flat, fixed transportation fee. You get to choose the outside company that actually sells you the fuel, and the utility, well, they just maintain the physical road that fuel travels on. It's a totally different ballgame.
Section 3. Balancing energy affordability. Keeping the gas on. Regardless of whether they're in a regulated or deregulated market, all utilities face immense pressure to balance two things: earning an appropriate return for their shareholders and keeping energy actually affordable for everyday consumers. And the hard truth is, a utility's ability to keep bills low isn't just about how efficient their operations are. It's heavily dictated by external, entirely uncontrollable forces. Think about the underlying economic conditions and poverty rates of their specific territory, or geography, or brutal winter climates and extreme weather events, even shifting public policies. Every single one of these external factors can drastically impact a customer's ability to simply pay their monthly bill.
And listen, this isn't just dry financial data on a spreadsheet somewhere. Utility bills are fundamentally tied to human well-being. That is exactly why industry standards require these utilities to strictly track the number of residential customer gas disconnections for non-payment. More importantly, they track the percentage of those disconnected customers who are reconnected within 30 days. Because losing your heat in the dead of winter, that is a high-stakes, life-altering emergency for vulnerable communities. Managing this affordability crisis is absolutely vital for utilities to maintain trust with both the regulators and the public.
Section 4. Driving end-use efficiency. Doing more with less.
Let's transition to a major sustainability hurdle, which involves a somewhat ironic goal. Utilities are actively trying to help you, their customer, consume less of the very product they deliver. Why on earth would they do that? Well, because while natural gas does produce fewer greenhouse gas emissions than burning coal or oil, the total value chain still generates a highly meaningful amount of emissions. With policymakers aggressively trying to mitigate climate change, utilities are being pushed hard to sponsor energy efficiency initiatives. By offering things like home weatherization programs or cash rebates for highly efficient appliances, utilities can shrink the carbon footprint of their entire network, lower operating costs, and even earn returns on these new investments.
But they have to prove these programs actually work, right? To do that, utilities meticulously measure and report the exact amount of gas their customers save. The standardized metric used across the entire industry for this is the MMBTU, which stands for Million British Thermal Units. Tracking these gross savings in MMBTUs allows regulators to see exactly how effective a utility's efficiency programs really are in any given market.
Section 5. Maintaining infrastructure integrity. Safety above all else.
Okay, let's dive into arguably the most critical operational pillar of the entire industry: safety. We are talking about managing the physical integrity of a vast, often aging infrastructure network that is frequently buried directly beneath densely populated, busy cities. To avoid catastrophic failures, utilities absolutely must embed a rigorous culture of safety into every single step of a pipeline's life cycle. We're talking from the initial engineering design and construction, straight through decades of daily operation and maintenance, all the way to eventual decommissioning. It requires strict operator qualification, advanced emergency prep, and constant, never-ending internal inspections.
The stakes here literally could not be higher. Failing to replace aging infrastructure or adequately monitor for gas leaks can lead to what the industry clinically calls losses of containment. But in the real world, that means tragic, fatal accidents, massive fires, and multi-million-dollar negligence lawsuits. On top of that, leaks lead to fugitive emissions, specifically unburned methane escaping directly into the atmosphere. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, and leaking it attracts severe regulatory scrutiny and massive environmental fines. So, with all these complex challenges, from navigating regulated monopolies to preventing pipeline explosions, how exactly do investors, regulators, and the public hold these companies accountable?
Section 6. Measuring Industry Performance, the SASB Standards. To measure all this performance, financial markets worldwide rely on the SASB standards. This is a framework now overseen by the IFRS Foundation, and it provides the exact, standardized sustainability accounting metrics used to grade companies in the gas, utilities, and distributors industry. It's incredibly important because it ensures everyone is reporting their performance using the exact same transparent yardstick.
These SASB standards bring all of the topics we just discussed together, transforming abstract ideas into hard, comparable data. For energy affordability, they look at average retail gas rates alongside the exact number of customer disconnections. For end-use efficiency, they track those MMBTUs of saved gas we talked about. And for infrastructure integrity, they force utilities to disclose the exact percentage of high-risk materials they still operate. Specifically, they have to report the length of cast iron or unprotected steel pipelines still buried in the ground. It creates total transparency across the board.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a quick challenge. The next time you get your mail, dig out your latest utility bill. Take a really close look at the charges and investigate. Are you a captive ratepayer paying a regulator-approved rate to a full monopoly? Or do you live in a deregulated market where a common carrier just delivers the gas, but you actually have the power to choose your own supplier? Understanding the complex world behind that little piece of paper is the very first step to being an empowered energy consumer. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.